2021 has been huge for first-person shooters, but we're not done yet. Hi folks, it's Falcon, and today on GameRanx, the top 20 new FPS games in 2021. Before we get going, a quick disclaimer. A few games that were supposed to come out this year that we've talked a lot about have been delayed. Dying Light 2, Stalker 2, Scorn, Atomic Heart, Echo Mecha, Rainbow Six Quarantine, and Overwatch 2 are games we're unfortunately not going to see this year. That sucks, but there's still a ton of great FPSs that are already out and ones that are still coming. Starting off with number 20, In Sound Mind. Now this is a fairly unique looking game. It's a first-person shooter / survival horror set in what they call an inexplicable building. It's sort of a supernatural mystery game where you're trying to unravel how to escape while solving various environmental puzzles, and supposedly the game will contain some pretty unique boss fights. If you're familiar with Nightmare House 2, it's the developers that made that. In Sound Mind is coming to PC, PS5, Xbox Series X, and Switch September 28th. At number 19 is Bright Memory Infinite. This is one of those games where the story looks cool, but the main reason to play it is how fast-paced and wild the gameplay looks. It's like if Dishonored was actually Doom, where you're just like throwing crap around and shooting it. It's set in a futuristic metropolis and manages to incorporate a bunch of interesting ideas in the environment and the story, but in truth, the frenetic gameplay is what looks like the most interesting aspect of it. We do not have a specific date, but it is still landing on the PC, PS5, and Xbox Series X sometime this year. At number 18 is a remake of The House of the Dead. Now this is a first-person shooter, but it is an on-rails one. It's an arcade shooter, and honestly, I'm stoked that it's coming back. Now, it's a pretty old game from 1996, but it is a full remake, and it looks way better. In terms of old light gun games, it's also probably one of the best to do this with, and the Switch is a great platform to do it on. We don't have an exact date, but it is coming sometime within the remainder of 2021. At number 17, a VR FPS called After the Fall, which is set in a post-apocalyptic 1980s Los Angeles that is actually covered in ice. Now, this is a co-op zombie shooter, so you can probably guess that it is inspired by Left 4 Dead. However, the VR element makes it a kind of different animal, and I think that makes it very worth checking out. We don't have a date. It is coming sometime in 2021, though, to PC, PS4, and Oculus. At number 16 is Boundary, a space shooter. And when I say a space shooter, it's very literally a shooter in space. You'll be an astronaut, you will be armed, and combat will take place in zero gravity. Now this is a game that both looks kind of outwardly silly as well as completely awesome. I do not know why you would need an orbital security detail, but it does seem to be a pretty good excuse for a shooter. Boundary is coming to PC and PS4 sometime in the later half of 2021. At number 15 is Shadow Warrior 3, the latest in the grappling, slicing, fast-paced shooting, visually very stylish and gory series, brings its very fluid gameplay to another entry. It's actually been a while since the last one. The rebooted Shadow Warrior happened in 2013, and its sequel happened in 2016. The sequel itself was a solid building on the original reboot, and it looks a lot like this sequel is the same on top of Shadow Warrior 2. I'm really looking forward to it. It's landing on PC, PS4, and Xbox One sometime in the later half of 21. At number 14 is Hell Let Loose, a World War II action shooter which focuses on 100-player multiplayer matches, and I've seen a number of people regard it as what Battlefield 5 should have been. Not that Battlefield 5 is bad, it's that Hell Let Loose really does the job in terms of what it's supposed to be. Now, it came out back in July for the PC, but is landing on the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X on October 5th. At number 13 is Cruelty Squad, a game that has been out in early access since January. It is a very, very silly looking game, but you will find that it actually is a good game. It came out of early access in June. It describes itself as an immersive power fantasy simulator with tactical stealth elements set in a sewage-infused garbage world, and the description does not do it justice. It is just a game that works to resist basically every trend in first-person shooters and manages to do it well. It is not a good-looking game, and that is on purpose. It is intended to offend the senses. It's a difficult game too, and it does some totally insane stuff. At $20, it's beyond worth it. At number 12 is Sniper Ghost Warrior Contracts 2, a game that continues the more mission-based gameplay of the original Contracts game. It is a very, very good sniping game. The Sniper series and the previous Ghost Warrior Contracts, they're just good games, and this gives you a great new single-player campaign that improves upon it in more than a few ways. This game came out back in June and has a very well-deserved great reputation. Number 11 is Boomerang X, which is a very different looking game. It centers around a specific mechanic, which is a mystical boomerang that kind of functions as both a weapon and a grappling hook. It's also got an extremely unique look to it, very cartoon oriented, but not in the typical way you see video games looking cartoony. It's just a different take on an FPS that really works well. It's out on the PlayStations, the Xboxes, and PC. Pretty much everywhere, so give it a shot. At number 10 is Necromunda Hired Gun, a very different FPS, honestly, that takes place in the Warhammer 40k universe. Necromunda obviously being one of the biggest hive cities. It's a fast-paced game with a lot of different stuff in it, where it really incentivizes you to customize your weapons and your augments endlessly. That's basically like the real selling point that makes it different aside from the level design, which is very good. This is one that's been out since May, and I don't think has gotten the credit it deserves, and it's out on pretty much everything. PC, the PlayStations, the Xboxes. Definitely deserves some attention. At number 9 is World War Z Aftermath, which is again a game that gave us sort of a third-person interpretation on Left 4 Dead. World War Z Aftermath now gives us first-person if you want to play it more like Left 4 Dead. This is a game that really took sort of zombie horde mechanics and made it into something that works in Left 4 Dead as opposed to something that's just like an open world, one-player, single-player type experience, like what we saw in Days Gone. It's something that works really well, and I think Aftermath is a more complete and enjoyable package than the original game, at least from the looks, even though I wouldn't say that I had any major criticisms for the original game. World War Z Aftermath is landing on September 21st for the PC, PS4, PS5, Xbox One, and Xbox Series X. At number 8 is Severed Steel, a really interesting bullet time oriented game with fully destructible voxel-based environments. It kind of looks like if Fear had much more stylish visuals and destructible environments, and that's something I want to play. Severed Steel actually comes out in a couple of days for the PlayStations, the Xboxes, and PC and Switch. Look out for it September 17th. At number 7 is Back 4 Blood. Let's just be clear, the developers of Left 4 Dead got tired of waiting for Valve to say, hey, make another Left 4 Dead. So they made Back 4 Blood, which is, by all intents and purposes, the spiritual successor and a continuation of that series. It looks like exactly what I would want from it, too. It looks like Left 4 Dead with a nice graphical upgrade and maybe slightly more interesting / interactive level design. Back 4 Blood is coming to PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, Xbox One, Xbox Series X, and PC on October 12th. At number 6 is Battlefield 2042, the new purely multiplayer Battlefield game. There is no single-player campaign in 2042, which is probably what explains the 2042 aspect of it. Why not make things just a little bit futuristic for fun? One of the big things this game is advertising itself on is the extreme weather effects they're adding, like tornadoes and sandstorms, and they're also keeping the destructive environments for from Battlefield 4. It looks like, in terms of multiplayer shooters, pretty interesting. The PC and current generation consoles will support 128 players, while PS4 and Xbox One are only going to do 64. That's the only major player difference between the versions though, so it looks pretty interesting, along with this Battlefield Portal mode that lets you create your own modes. Battlefield 2042 is coming to the PlayStations, the Xboxes, and PC on November 19. At number 5 is Far Cry 6, which gives us a new and frankly pretty interesting looking Caribbean dictatorship setting with a president named Anton Castillo, who is played by the guy who portrayed Gus Fring in Breaking Bad. There's also a number of interesting looking crossovers like Danny Trejo and even Rambo. It's another Far Cry game in another location with a fairly different looking story. It's landing on PC, PS4, PS5, Xbox One, Xbox Series X, as well as the streaming services on October 7th. At number 4 is Halo Infinite, really probably one of the biggest anticipated releases of the last couple of years. In some ways, it looks like they're attempting to return to the roots of Halo, make the visuals be more reminiscent of the first couple of Halo games while also being significantly better, obviously. And in some ways, it looks like they're trying to tell a fairly new story. Obviously, this is the new Xbox flagship game, but it is also coming out on PC and Xbox One, as well as the Xbox Series X on December 8th. At number 3 is Resident Evil Village, which continues the story from Resident Evil 7, although from the very start, this game is a lot more Resident Evil-ish immediately, rather than slowly revealing itself as a, honestly, fairly traditional Resident Evil game. There is so much going on in this game that it's hard to sum it up, but it is full of personality and actually has a pretty good story. That came out way back in May. It's available on the PlayStations, the Xboxes, and PC. At number 2 is Call of Duty Vanguard, a game set in the World War II era, which looks to add a few features like the ability to blind fire from behind cover, and it also continues the ability to mount wielded weapons to flat surfaces a la Modern Warfare. It also is obviously going to include a multiplayer mode, as well as a zombies mode, but the main campaign is going to take place over a span of 4 different front lines in World War II. I mean, it's the next Call of Duty game. It's obviously going to be huge, and it's coming out on the PlayStations, the Xboxes, and PC on November 5th. And at number 1 is Deathloop, which I've had faith in for quite a while. You know, if you pay attention to our videos, that I love Arcane Studios. And this is a game that has really proven the doubters wrong. I mean, if you like Dishonored, you're probably going to like Deathloop. It's kind of like, and I think Jake summed it up really well in the Before You Buy. I'd recommend watching that. It's like a Dishonored light that lets you enjoy some of the main mechanics of it while plopping it into a faster pace and structure that allows for a lot of choice and agency, but also keeps you on a track. And the risk really paid off. This game is fun as hell. I love it. I don't know if I love it more than Dishonored because, again, the structure makes it a slightly different experience, but it's definitely up there for me. It's a timed exclusive. Right now, it is out on PS5 and PC, and I highly recommend it. It is great. Couple of quick bonus games for you. First is Sanzo, which is an FPS that takes place in mountainous areas in World War I. That's coming to the PlayStations, the Xboxes, and PC supposedly in Q4, but might be delayed to Q1 of next year. Next is 9 to 5, a 3v3v3 team-focused first-person shooter with mercenaries and a lot of weapon customization. That's been out since last month on PC. And finally, Lemnis Gate, which is an ambitious turn-based strategy first-person shooter. Like Deathloop, it takes place in a time loop. However, it's a pretty significantly different concept. Look for that on the PlayStations, the Xboxes, and PC on September 28th. That's all for today. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you think. If you like this video, click like. If you're not subscribed, now's a great time to do so. We upload brand new videos every day of the week. Best way to see them first is, of course, a subscription, so click subscribe. Don't forget to enable all notifications, and as always, thank you very much for watching this video. I'm Falcon. You can follow me on Twitter, Falcon the Hero. We'll see you next time right here on gameranx.